Well, the death penalty. So honestly, I don't know that the United States, frankly, is ready for it. They should be ready for it.
President Trump heaping praise on the Chinese justice system, Amanda Carpenter, floating the prospect of executing drug dealers in this country. What's going on here?
I thought this part of his discussion was fascinating. Was it extreme? Yes. But is he absolutely on to something and pushing the envelope on this issue? Absolutely. I mean, people are dying in their cars, in the streets as a result of this opioid crisis. But here's my question. The drug dealer in this case is Big Pharma. Yeah. I want a discussion of how we stop these drugs from just flowing through the country and being abused in such ways. This isn't a case where we're going to, track down a gang leader and throw him in jail and incarcerate him and give him the death penalty. It's much more complicated. And if he wants to take on Big Pharma for this, I'm all for it.
And Anthony, you're opposed to the death penalty.
Yeah, listen, I'm totally opposed to the death penalty. I would tell my Republican friends it's the most uneven application of the law in the United States. 30 years ago, you did a paper on it. If you're smart and you can lawyer up, you don't get the death penalty. If you have a low IQ and then you're in a rural place, and frankly, if you're African American and you know this, Bakari, you end up getting the death penalty, okay? And so to me, I think it's completely unfair. As it relates specifically to the drug situation, though, the president is onto something, and we have to figure out how to cut the source, and we have to be aggressive about it. But I'm not a big fan of the death penalty because it doesn't apply itself evenly across the society.
So one of the things that we have to be careful about, and I think that Donald Trump, I wouldn't necessarily expect him to necessarily be a student of history, but we've gone down this path before. And I think that what we saw with Ronald Reagan's war on drugs, what we saw with the 94 crime bill and Bill Clinton, it was bad precedent, bad law, bad policy. Because what we did was we broke families apart. During that time period, we didn't treat the crack epidemic the same way that we're treating the opioid epidemic. And what we have is entire generations of individuals who've been taken out of their homes, who have been put away for years upon years upon years, simply because they're dealing marijuana. We have to have a holistic approach to this. And I think that the path that the president's going down, I wish that someone, if I could talk to President Trump about one thing, it would be about this. How to unravel this issue, how to talk about this issue in a way that not only endears himself to minority communities that are affected and those individuals like you're talking about, but also creates policy moving forward.
And Nira, I want to jump ahead because one of the other things he talked about last night was the wall. It's one of his most popular lines, obviously, in his campaign speech. We have a little bit of that. Let's play what he had to say last night about that.
I will say we will build the wall. We have to build the wall. We have to build the wall. And the Democrats are holding it back. We had a deal, $25 billion. And by the way, if I get $25 billion for the wall, you're going to have a lot of change. You're going to have a lot of change. I've got all the big builders, the best ones in the world. I know the best builders. We want to use the good builders, not the bad ones.
Nira, he's got all the best builders.
I'm glad he's got the good ones and not the bad ones. I'd say, there's no wall. Who knows if there will ever be a wall? I doubt there will be a wall.
He's going to California on Tuesday to look at prototypes of the wall.
The odd thing about this whole situation is he had a deal in front of him, a deal not many Democrats really liked, but a deal to do essentially some investment in the wall for DACA dreamers. The president refused that deal. Actually, let me be clear about that. He accepted the deal. John Kelly called 4 hours later, who seemed to speak for the president and said he doesn't want the deal. So the president himself is basically, at this point, made the dreamers be out there on their own and isn't getting his wall. So I would say that's not the greatest negotiating skills. Yeah. Maybe make people a little worried about his negotiating skills in North Korea.
And I want to make time to get to this because we were talking about this in the last segment, Anthony. Let's talk about the president and what he's had to say last night about the First Lady. This was interesting.
Take Melania. Great First Lady. She's great. She's great. She is great. You think her life is so easy, folks? Not so easy.
No kidding.
Anthony, the president on his way up to this event was asked by CNN yesterday about whether he had had a relationship with Stormy Daniels. He did not answer the question. Do you know whether or not he had had a relationship with Stormy Daniels?
I don't know that situation, but let's talk about Melania for a second, okay? She's a wonderful person. She's a great mom. She's a great friend. I got to know her on the campaign, and even though I was only in the White House for 11 days, had the opportunity to have dinner with her, and we traveled on Air Force One together. She has a ton of grace, a ton of dignity, And I think when you're talking about the opioid situation, she's a deployable asset for the White House, that they should get out there to speak in those communities. And so when he says that her life is not easy, I know what it's related to. They're taking incoming from everywhere. And the negative press and the bias related to her. And you see the body language.
No, but I mean, Melania was an original birther as well.
Okay.
So here we go.
Can we take this out of Melania?
I want to give Nero the last comment. Anthony said
Okay,
something.
whatever you want to say about Melania, it's
you're-
not the outside world that's affecting Melania. It's the president's own actions. The 16 women who accused him of credibly accused him of assault, and the Stormy Daniels situation.
Look,
This is
I'm going to
Donald
speak on her
Trump.
behalf. She knows a lot of that stuff is actually not true.
Let me.
How do you know she knows it's
Because
not true?
I've talked to her about
you
it.
can't say it's.
I've
you
talked
can't
to
say
her
it's
about
not
it.
true, so you don't know what
Well, let me
Melania
tell you
out
something.
of the
If a woman
situation.
says that she met Melania in front of Trump Tower when she never takes anybody in front
Stormy
of Trump
Daniels,
Tower
she knows
for
it's Stormy
The bottom
security.
line
All right,
of this situation is that you have a case where the president's
you
lawyer
guys, it's
paid
a
a
double
woman's
standard.
silence to suppress information from the voters. That is why it matters. It's not about Trump's
I
marriage.
got to
All right.
stay in
Yes.
New York because the double standard and hypocrisy in Washington is like literally off the chart. Okay,
Anthony traveled.
It was okay to protect the
It wasn't
Clinton
okay.
family.
That wasn't
It was
okay.
okay to
All right.
protect
All
the
right, we got-
Obama
Neither is
family.
okay.
Let's protect.
family.
Let's protect the
Trump
people
could
in
not,
the Trump
cannot
Anthony,
get a
let's-
security
that deserve to be
clearance.
Let's give
Anthony the last
Doing
word
it
there.
all the hush
We're going to give
laying around.
Anthony travel the farthest. He gets the last word. All right. Thanks very much, guys.